Hello. So today is week 72 in Intuitive Momentum Fitness, and we're having warmer weather here on the coast, which is pretty mild compared to the rest of the country, but I've got all the windows open, and so hopefully the additional sound won't be too distracting, and also like a minute and a half late. So, jumping on. And today, there's a theme with what I posted and what the responses were around really owning your journey, owning your experience, owning your goals, owning your priorities. And I keep using the word sovereignty. That resonates with me. May not resonate with you, but hopefully you understand the idea of personal ownership, of autonomy, of you being powerful in your space, over your life, over your body, over your sexuality, over your food, over your strength training, your exercise, your goals, your finances, all the things. And versus someone else setting expectations or meeting cultural norms that we feel kind of unconscious, below water level pressure to meet. So the meme that I shared says, I don't want you to push yourself out of your comfort zone. I want you to feel compelled and seduced out of your comfort zone by the truth of your bigness and the thrill of the expanded possibilities that are available on the other side. So the goal is to feel compelled and seduced out of your comfort zone by the truth of your bigness, how powerful you are, and the thrill of the expanded possibilities that are available on the other side. And that is the difference between extrinsic motivation and intrinsic motivation. Extrinsic or external motivation is like reaching a number on a scale, getting someone's approval, making a team, being accepted, or it could be on the negative side. And not even necessarily negative as in bad, just, not positive, like something you want, but something you don't want. So, kind of like Biggest Loser or a drill sergeant yelling at you. Sometimes people have in the past asked if I would train them like that. And I'm like, no. I'm not here to be, an authority figure in your life and make you do stuff you don't want to do to get results you're not ready to get. You have to want it. So, and that's where the intrinsic motivation is. That's what this quote is, or this meme is talking about, feeling compelled and seduced. It's like, yes, take risks. Yes, step out of your comfort zone, but do it in the direction of things that inspire you. Do it in the direction of things that you really desire. Things that you're willing to take risks for, because stepping out of your comfort zone is a risk. And those things that you desire are going to give you the fuel and the motivation to take a bet, make a bet on your power, on your bigness, on the expanded possibilities that are on the other side. So when we're working together, when we're talking about your goals and making adjustments to your nutrition and setting a specific strength training or cardio routine in place, those things by themselves are not very motivating. So what is it that you really truly desire? What is the thing that is inspiring? It's not inspiring to get more approval from others, to not be an embarrassment or not be ashamed or whatever. Like that, those kinds of things are not truly going to carry you through all of the changes that you desire. So you are sovereign. Recognize that. You are powerful. Recognize that. There are things that you have not experienced that you are capable of bringing into reality by your intention and by your will and your consistency and your insistence. So what are the things that you desire to bring to pass? What do you desire to experience? What reality do you want to live in? So, yeah, live from inspiration. Live from excitement and urge. So the things that I said about this is a huge aspect of what makes our approach to fitness different. You already know that you have what it takes to step out of your comfort zone. You know that. You've been pushing yourself out of your comfort zone as an empath, as a trauma survivor for years. So making yourself get out of your comfort zone is not the kind of self-honoring, inspired momentum that we want. The key thing is moving out of your comfort zone in the direction of the things that inspire you, that make you come alive. So as you think about the difference between what you think you should be doing and what you really want, what you really desire, what makes you come alive, what's in the way? What are the stories and the distractions and the lies about what you should be doing that are keeping you from letting go of that and focusing on what you want to be doing, what you desire for yourself? Where is the disconnect between the two? So this is something that I've been practicing kind of nonstop for 19 years, and I have endless compassion for not going after what you want and going after what is reasonable, what makes sense, and you know, going after the things that we feel like we should be doing. All the shoulds, shoulding all over the place. So there were some good comments here, and I'm going to share them and also share my thoughts on them. But the big thing that is so important to remember before we move forward is don't push yourself out of your comfort zone. Be inspired out of your comfort zone. Be compelled, be seduced. Leave your comfort zone for the things that really make you come alive, not out of a sense of duty. So Sandra shares, fear and failure stop me. And Sandra, you didn't share a lot of detail. I imagine there's a lot there, and it would just get bogged down to talk about the details, and that's why you didn't share any more than that. But I love that you did share that, and I very much relate to that. And so there's a bunch of thoughts that I have on that. And then Sarah Hotchkins shared some good thoughts as well, and so I'll be reading that in a moment. But yeah, fear and failure stop me. And there's a few quotes that I want to read before talking about my experiences, some of my experiences with fear and failure. But the first two are from Alan Watts. I don't know a lot about him, and I've heard a handful of his quotes, but I like all of the things I've heard so far. So this first one is, "The meaning of life is just to be alive. It is so plain and so obvious and so simple. And yet everyone rushes around in a great panic as if it were necessary to achieve something beyond themselves." And then this other one that he says, "We thought of life by analogy with a journey, a pilgrimage, which has a serious purpose at the end. And the thing was to get to that end, success or whatever it is, maybe heaven after you're dead. But we missed the point the whole way along. It was a musical thing, and you were supposed to sing or to dance while the music was being played." And I love that. And he shares, there's a recording of his talk that I want to share in the group. And it's really beautiful, and it's really, really inspiring to listen to. So I'm going to post that in the comments under the live video. Let me refresh this in the group so I can do that. Susie, your comment, I just saw your comment shooting all over the place. Yeah, it's not showing up on my phone. So if I miss some of your other comments, I'll check back on my laptop and see if there are any other comments that are not coming through. But that's fun. So yeah, so check out this Alan Watts video when you get a chance. Really beautiful to listen to his words. So yeah, it's like, who decided that this life was supposed to be a race, and it was supposed to be measured and quantified, and some people fail and some people succeed, some people win, and others are not measuring up or falling behind or whatever. Like, who decided that we should track this? And regardless of the actual answer, there are a lot of people deciding that, but and depending on the circles, I really feel like it's insecurity, human insecurity, that causes people, especially the ones that seem the most confident. They're usually the ones that are the loudest, the most outgoing and gregarious, and they kind of project their ideal of life onto everyone else and use themselves as a measuring board, and kind of point out how other people are not quite keeping up with the expectations that supposedly people have. And so we turn life into a journey, a pilgrimage, or a race, and we think we have to accomplish certain things at certain points to make sure we're on track, and then definitely have a list of things to accomplish before death, when no other creature lives like that. So a flower is only alive for a few weeks, but it blooms and then dies, and trees grow until they die. The sun just keeps coming up and setting, living in eternal burning state, and it doesn't have any major goals for accomplishment. It just trusts and lives and exists, does its purpose, and enjoys being alive. I love thinking of flowers that just bloom and don't compare themselves to the flower next to them. They just bloom. The animals that are, not thinking about how they're going to get dinner when it's breakfast time. They just, go eat something when they're hungry, bring food to their babies, build a nest, lay eggs, migrate when they're supposed to migrate, when the weather changes. So they're just being in the moment and living. And so, and I am going to talk more about fear and failure in a moment, but just trying to set this picture of what life can be. And when we think of fear and failure, when we think of not measuring up, like, who is deciding that? And are they really in charge? Like something when I was super little, my younger brother has a big personality, and he got taller than me when he was 3. I was 4, and was taller than me most of the years since then, except for 1 year when I was 14. I had a little growth spurt and passed him for a couple months. But then, but yeah, so big personality, always had these big ideas and wanted to do things. And I was the firstborn. I wanted to make sure that this was approved and that I wasn't going to get in trouble following one of his schemes. So every time he said, hey, let's do this, or we're supposed to do this, I was like, who says? And I wanted to make sure, because he would word it like he was just told by mom or dad to do something. And I would want to check, like, did they actually say that, or are you making this up? So we kind of need to check these other people, or like, where are these thoughts coming from that tell me I need to live a certain way, or do a certain thing, or have accomplished something by a certain time. Like, who is saying that? So I want to read this second Alan Watts quote again. We thought of life by analogy with a journey, a pilgrimage, which had some serious purpose at the end. And the thing was to get to that end, success or whatever it is, maybe heaven after you are dead. But we missed the point the whole way along. It was a musical thing. And you were supposed to sing or to dance while the music was being played. So, and I just love that analogy. It's like, you don't wait for the end of the song to appreciate the song. You want to be present to it the whole time and move if it inspires you to move, or sing if it inspires you to sing. And that's such a beautiful analogy to life. So Darlene Oymet, I believe is how you say the name, says, I worked so hard trying to get approval from the people that taught me I wasn't worthy in the first place. I worked so hard trying to get the approval from the people that taught me I wasn't worthy in the first place. So when you spend any time with a narcissist, whether that's a parent or a spouse or a boss or whatever, and you really pay attention to what's going on, because they'll try to distract you into just what they're saying right at the moment, but they keep changing what they're saying. So they set these expectations, and then you are set up for failure if you pay attention to it. There's no way to win. And it took me till I was 22 before I was brave enough, willing, courageous enough to stop playing the game with my dad, and truly acknowledge and admit that I was never, ever, ever going to win his approval. And in hindsight now, I know that he really disapproves of himself, and he doesn't have his approval, and so I was definitely not going to have his approval. There's that quote, sometimes we are just the collateral damage in someone else's war against themselves. So, when you take a risk, you step out of your comfort zone, you go after something that you love, and then someone tells you, oh, don't do that because you're going to fail in all these ways. That's not smart. You better just, be content with a lower level of existence, lower goals. Who are they talking to? Are they talking to you, or are they just like trying to encourage themselves because they chose to believe that? And they want you to believe that so that they can stay right in their own minds, rather than be shown by your example that they could have done something more, and maybe they still can. There's another quote by Shannon Alder. Don't waste your time trying to explain yourself to people that are committed to misunderstanding you, because some people are. Instead, commit your time to explaining who they are to them. When you get a person to see the positive similarities you share, it begins to restore the loss of respect between you. So there's some very advanced specifics in that, but the main thing that I want to highlight in this quote is the first sentence. Don't waste your time trying to explain yourself to people that are committed to misunderstanding you. And sometimes it takes a while to realize that they're committed to that, because you are good-hearted, you are looking for the positive in people, and you just kind of automatically expect that other people are doing the same. And so then when they seem to have a major problem with you, then you think, whoa, okay, I should listen to this, because I would want to have someone pay attention to a warning that I see, a caution that I have, because I'm very much caring and empathic, but not everyone is like that. Sometimes they are just trying to sabotage you. And that's kind of horrifying and problematic to realize. So yeah, it's like you don't want to think poorly of someone that you care about and that you love, but sometimes it is so important to see who they are actually presenting themselves as. So, yeah, it's brutal sometimes. So back to Sandra's comment that fear and failure stop her. First, like, so much compassion, because there is a lot of fear and failure, and so those experiences feel so real, even when you stop and realize that you were just playing a rigged game that you were never meant to win. Even when you realize that, even when you know that, it doesn't take away the visceral experience of having failed over and over and over and over and over again and experienced fear of failure. I think it's really challenging to really be able to put ourselves in shoes, especially in previous time periods. You know, because we are more empowered now. All of us, whoever we are, we're more empowered now than any other time in history that we know of, history that we have access to. So, you know, looking back 50, 100, 500 years and judging them for putting up with abuse doesn't work, because, you know, let's say medieval England, and if you're a serf and you're working for a lord, and you're barely eating enough to survive, and everything is dirty and grimy, and roads aren't great, and you're having to pay these taxes and all this stuff. You know, we could look from our place now. It's like, why would you put up with that? Just go somewhere else. And, you know, now we can quit a job and go get another job. And we have that luxury. And I believe that is a wonderfully empowered state of being, and something that we should be, you know, extremely grateful for and utilize, and not put up with things that are unhealthful for us. But sometimes there were times in the past where people didn't have that option, and so they stayed in really toxic situations and all of that. So there is a lot of fear and failure, and so we don't always realize that the reality that we see is different from the reality embedded in us. Like, our DNA still has a lot of those fears in it, you know, even back to more tribal times, when we would have had to rely on staying within the tribe to get food and shelter and all of that. Had to stick together, hunt wild prey, and feed ourselves with whatever we could scrap. And getting kicked out of the tribe was a major fear. Doing anything too extreme could be dangerous. And so staying within the line, staying within accepted rules, it's not a small thing. To our bodies, it feels like survival, even though our minds know, hey, there's actually resources. I could probably, you know, find a new tribe in this day and age, and connect with new people and get support and get back on my feet. It's still really scary. So fear and failure, you know, on a really kind of lighter end of the spectrum, I think of sports. So hopefully, even if you can't relate to this personally, hopefully you can understand what I'm trying to say. So even though I grew up with extreme fatigue, and inability to build muscle, I dreamed of being a soccer player from the time I was super little. and I always wanted to be on a team. I pictured playing in high school, and I pictured playing in college, and I pictured playing on a pro team. And even though like I was going through high school, and even after, even into my 20s, I just like kind of kept this fantasy that I would go to and think, oh, maybe I could, get a soccer scholarship to college and play in college, and then, get drafted onto an MLS team, or go to Europe or something. But it's just like it was definitely some kind of cognitive dissonance between what was real and what I could do. And so then the difference between imagination and reality. But so I did get to play in my the latter half of my 20s in indoor sports park on a team. I didn't know anyone playing soccer, so when I signed up with them, I just signed up for the house team for all the people that didn't have a team. And then at the end of that first season, I asked everybody if they wanted to keep playing together. And so then I organized the team after that, and we played for 4 years. And the last year we were playing on 2 different rec leagues, so we got to play twice a week. So it was so much fun, but and I was able to play with some skill just because I had kind of played with my brothers growing up. But then also I had gotten healthy enough at that point and fit enough that I was fast. So even though almost everyone else I was playing with and against had been playing since they were little, and now they were out of shape, but they had amazing ball skills, and that was what made us somewhat competitive, was that I didn't have great ball skills. I had some skills, just basic stuff, but I was much more in shape than most of them. So this is the point that I'm trying to make with this is am I a failure because I never got to play soccer in high school, college, and pro? Or am I a success because I played soccer and enjoyed it where I could? And I think there are too many people in the sidelines, on the sidelines, in the bleachers, in the stands, the man in the arena quote by Roosevelt, that are the critics, and they're telling you whether you fail or succeed, and we're listening to them. So compared to people that really have gotten to play soccer, I'm a terrible soccer player, but I still love playing. So is that success or failure? And then same with pickleball. Pickleball is seen as kind of a lame sport because it's mostly retired people that play and all that, and yet there are young pro pickleball players that are incredible, and the game is, I believe, brilliant because it's so scalable. The bar to entry is really, really low. Anyone can play, anyone can have a good time, but the fitter you are, the more skilled you are, the more you play, the more of a workout it is, the more of a challenge it is, the more skill is required. So, so what's the definition of success and failure there? Do you have to go pro? Do you have to become a 5-0 on the scale of experience? Or can you just play at whatever skill you're at with whoever you get to play with and enjoy playing? So that's kind of a lighthearted side of fear and failure. And then a more serious one is, some of the risks that I've taken, because I've always been a big dreamer. I've been willing to take risks, and then once I do, then all of a sudden I'm like, oh crap, I could really mess this up. I could really fail spectacularly in this situation. The first time was, probably the biggest thing I've ever done was standing up to my dad finally after 22 years and choosing to join the Marines. Mostly because that was the only thing I knew where I could get trained and paid at the same time. So I thought I really need to catch up on life, and I've missed out. I've been kept in my dad's home for 22 years, and I need to figure out how to catch up, get some experience, get some training, get some money, and my dad always told me that I didn't have any discipline, so I thought I'm gonna join the Marines. And as soon as I got there, I thought, wow, I've made a massive mistake. Because these guys were insane. These drill instructors were just psychopaths. And I felt like I was 3 years old emotionally. Like I was terrified. And it was like my entire childhood on steroids. So I knew I was going to fail, and I felt like I was going to fail. So I just barely survived. I kept going, just like moment to moment, trying to do the next thing, just trying to keep my head down, just trying to take another step, take another breath, live another minute. And it was just insanity. And I made it through the training, got home, was kind of knocked out for months and months, but that was that first huge experience where I realized, whoa, I could royally mess this up, taking this massive risk. And I was, feeling so optimistic beforehand and thinking, all these grand ideas about, conquering Marine boot camp and coming home a war hero kind of thing. And just like nothing like that happened. Didn't have any experience like that. Similar thing with massage school. I was so scared to go into debt. Like the idea of owing $12,000 was super scary and overwhelming at 23, almost 24. And but I got a pep talk from my aunt and uncle, and I signed up and I went through, and there were times where it was really scary. I was trying to work at the same time, trying to pay bills, and but I took that and ended up getting licensed as a massage therapist, which was amazing. Same thing with signing up for associate's degree in personal training. And then, same thing with my moving from Oregon for the first time to Michigan, and not knowing a single person out there, and having that be really scary, kind of stepping back into a very surprisingly authoritarian, critical, harsh type of corporate environment, and then realizing that the little Midwest town that this was located in was also the same way, very judgmental, very critical, everyone sizing everyone else up, and having all kinds of crazy judgments about them. And then the same thing when I left Michigan, I decided to sell my car or trade in my car for a truck, and I got a travel trailer and decided to drive around the country by myself for 2 months on my way back home. There's that initial boldness of risk taking, like, yes, I can do this. And then that terrifying, like, whoa, I could really totally mess this up, and maybe I was absolutely stupid for doing this. And then the same processes with writing my book, feeling that urge, like I'm going to do this. I'm inspired to step out of my comfort zone. And then I get into it and I'm like, what did I do? Who am I to talk about this? Why am I sharing all these intimate details of my life for anyone in the world to read? Maybe this won't make sense to anybody. Maybe they'll just think I'm an idiot and I'm touched in the head. and just like all of the terrifying fears. So Sandra, when you talk about fear and failure and how that stops you, I have so much empathy and compassion for you, and I hope that that you are able to step outside of those fears and failures, and whatever stories are being told inside of your mind and your heart, and really allow yourself to take brave movement forward in ways that inspire you, in ways that you hope for expansion. So yeah, all the best of luck to you in that. Grab some water here. So Sarah had some good comments to Sandra. She says, Sandra, they say people fight for their limitations to stay small. It's like people fight for the limitations in that they oftentimes are focused on trying to get everyone to understand how difficult it is for them. And that's so tempting. I get stuck in that myself. It's like, hey, you don't realize how much I've gone through and how much I'm dealing with right now, and what the cumulative consequences are of everything I've experienced, and how that makes life really challenging and almost impossible. And that's so understandable. And sometimes it does help to have at least one person that has compassion, and can see us for what we're dealing with and what we're overcoming. That can be so powerful, so liberating, to be seen and to be heard and to be witnessed, like we talked about last week. And so hopefully, if you feel like you are in that space of needing someone to understand you before you can move past it and choose a different reality, that you are able to choose someone and find someone that can witness you and see you and hear you in a really, really powerful and validating way, so that you can lay that piece of your story to rest and move on to bigger and better things, and let go of the fear that held you back at one point. So continuing on with what Sarah says, if we didn't strive to learn and do new things, we'd still be babies without language skills, but we have changed. Think about all the things you have achieved. Write a list of 100 things you're proud of. Focus on what you have done and the challenges you've overcome. You are already a success, and that's such a good reframe. I also wanted to share, kind of similar to that, in the book Complex PTSD by Pete Walker. He shares a self-gratitude exercise that's called 12 by 12. So there's 12 things that you are encouraged to, 12 categories that you're encouraged to think of, 12 things each for that you have done in your life. So the list is, list 12 accomplishments, 12 traits that you appreciate about yourself, 12 good deeds, 12 peak experiences that you're grateful for, 12 life enjoyments. These are more simple things. What do you enjoy in life? 12 intentions, 12 good habits, 12 jobs you've had, 12 subjects you've studied, 12 obstacles you've overcome, 12 times you experience grace received, and 12 nurturing memories. And so when there's a replay, you can go back and listen to those and write that down and create your own list. So Sandra responds to Sarah, says, I've been on the sidelines for so long, I don't even know if there would be 100 things. In fact, I know there isn't. So you never know just yet, because you may surprise yourself. Oftentimes when you are, when your own mind is not supporting you like a best friend, it's obscuring the evidence that would be supportive of you. So Sarah says in response, I know how you feel. I got to 42 and was struggling before that. But I think we probably don't give ourselves enough credit, and that's why it's good exercise. It did feel shitty that I couldn't write down 100 things. It was still a positive exercise to reflect on what I felt proud of. And there's probably millions of things I could have written down, but as your message recognized, we are sometimes our harshest critics, and we should be our greatest supporters. So yeah, when we are being our own critic, whose voice is that? Often it's not our own voice, but we are, because we feel more comfortable with the familiar. If there was someone in our life, even if they're not in our life anymore, we run their voice in our head, as absolutely unnecessary as that is. So, yeah. And sometimes we're in the place where we don't feel like we can be super positive or super supportive of ourselves. But maybe we can question the critic. And like, is that really true? Is that the whole story? Is that everything is that all the evidence that is here to be presented? So then Sarah shares this meme that has a quote from Mona Lisa Nyman. If you ever start to doubt your impact on this world, think of this. There are countless people that wouldn't be who they are if it wasn't for your existence, including people who you'll never meet because your love and kindness travels person to person to places you'll never go. And that's really cool. Really beautiful. So hopefully that's encouraging, Sandra. If you ever need support, just know that this group is totally in your corner and can help you think positive thoughts about yourself even when you can't. So please post or reach out when you need some encouragement. So before we move on, let me just refresh and see if there are any new comments. All right, let's see here. Okay, so Susie says, first, hey Lori, glad you're here. No worries about being late. Susie says, about fear, I find some types of fear are easier to overcome than others. And the harder ones to overcome are not necessarily the scariest ones, but maybe the ones most ingrained in me from a young age. Anyone else have this experience? So yes, I definitely understand that, and it's continuously remarkable to me how young we are when we make these massive beliefs that we carry through the rest of our lives. I remember giving a massage to one lady, and she was so mortified by her tiny hands. And I massage a lot of people, and I would have thought, oh, that's a little bit small, but it wouldn't have stood out to me enough to even really notice it. And so I think I was curious about that, and I asked her, like, when did you think that? When did you start thinking that your hands were small? And it was when she was 8 years old, and another 8-year-old boy made fun of her for having small hands. And so when I was working on her, I think she was in her 60s. So it was kind of a contrast to me a highlight to see this woman in her 60s being so affected by what an 8-year-old boy thought. And yet, that happened when she was 8. And so we carry, hey Danielle, great to see you. We carry these beliefs that we formed when we were tiny, way inexperienced with life, and yet we make these massive beliefs that are kind of become part of our personality and who we are. And it's such a remarkable thing. And so, there's huge value in stopping and thinking back. When was the first time I believed this? When was the first time I felt this? And go back to those moments and those instances as our adult self and speak some wisdom into that situation and kind of rewrite those moments, kind of like choosing a different timeline. Like, you know what, go back to your 8-year-old self as an adult and say, you know what, everyone has different size body parts. Like, I can say that as a massage therapist because I work on so many bodies. There's no body that looks the same. No arm that's the same length, no hand the same size, no torso length the same, no torso width the same. Like, every body is such a different shape. And so, like, being able to go back to that younger self and just give yourself some support, say something clarifying to the person that was the aggressor in the situation, maybe speak up for yourself. And so we can rewrite those moments. And then Susie says, but after you take a risk, you'll learn you're stronger than you knew. Even if things don't go like you hoped or you fail, you get info to grow with and become stronger and wiser still. Sometimes the lesson is, well, I didn't like that and I don't need to do that again. Exactly. So even after the situations that seemed the most terrifying at the time, I draw strength. I draw strength from how hopeless and helpless I felt in Marine training. Like, that was super overwhelming. I felt like I could not keep up and I was not wanted, and they wanted to, they were trying to destroy me basically. And I made it through and I survived, and not that I would choose to do that again, that same thing, but I know that however challenging and horrible and overwhelming circumstances in life can get, I know I can outlast it. I can overcome. So I draw strength from that. So back to the comments from yesterday. Susie left a comment saying, my disconnect fitness-wise is around food. I do eat a huge variety of food and lots of nutritious foods and make mostly healthy choices. However, I really, really, really love food and can eat most anything. I'm a total foodie, so of course I overeat or oversnack and eat more fat, salt, and sugar than I should. I also was in good BMI range until middle age. Several years ago, I dropped significant weight, doing so in a slow, healthy way, but I could not get myself back into a good BMI. I was like 5 to 10 pounds over it, and it would not have been healthy to calorie restrict any further given my activity levels. I could not drop any lower, and I was hungry and miserable all the time. So the challenge is finding a point of peace with eating as healthy as I can, probably never going back to a weight I would like, but leaving room to enjoy and experience food as a foodie. And this is such a great example of this balancing act and being sovereign. Like, what is important to you? Because like in the fitness world, I've been a personal trainer for a while, so I've been a professional in the fitness world, and not all professionals in the fitness world agree on what constitutes healthy goals or worthy goals or things like that. So as a professional in the fitness industry, I always felt like there was extra attention on me, and people could judge my shape and my strength and my fitness of various types. Like, I was never a great runner, and I hate running in a straight line. But I'll play pickleball for 3 or 4 hours, or volleyball for 2 hours, or soccer for an hour. I just don't want to run a straight line. And so some fitness people are runners, and I'm not. Some are swimmers, some are lifters, some have gotten massive, huge fitness. A lot of people asked if I was going to compete in a bodybuilding competition, and I didn't want to do that because my health had been so poor for so long, and it took me so long, way longer than for other people, to get to a healthy place, that I didn't want to just mess with that by trying to do a physique competition. So I'm just gonna be slow and steady and figure out how to honor my body where it is. So all that to say, everyone's in a different place, and so people that are very unfit and have been unfit their whole lives think that fit people can do anything. And so then they will make fun of you if you can't do something. Like, they would be disappointed that I couldn't run 5 miles because I look fit and I should be able to, and I don't want to. They don't realize that the body adapts to exactly what you do. So, and Susie, speaking of, does all kinds of dance, and that's amazing and awesome, but she wouldn't necessarily be able to go immediately do an Ironman just because she dances all the time, because it's a different thing. And so every body adapts to exactly what you train to do. So if you want to do something different, you have to train different. So all that running around to say, there's going to be a lot of people with a lot of opinions coming from a lot of different perspectives about your life, and what a dancer should look like, and all that. And we internalize this, and other people may not know that Susie is a foodie, but that is something that makes her come alive. That's something that she finds joy in, and she is conscientious about trying to eat as healthy as possible most of the time, but she's also going to enjoy food. So absolutely. So you are sovereign over your life. You know more than anyone what your goals are, and you are capable of being responsible for yourself in a way that no one else can. So no one else on the planet is more responsible for you than you. So you get to decide, what are my priorities? What do I want? And what am I going to have to be okay with to maintain these priorities? So an example for me is, I've always been obsessed with trying to get as big and as strong as possible because I was weak and small. So being weak and small and then working out and always getting weaker and smaller was so frustrating. So once I started being able to dial in my fitness and get some success, then my goal was always to get bigger, always to get stronger. However, I, reached a certain point where I was adding more body fat than I wanted as well. And so I thought, well, either I have to go slower and be okay with that, or I may not be able to reach some of the weight and size that I want to reach, and be lean and fit and be able to play sports that I like. And so when I weigh that out, I would rather be quick and fast and powerful and be good at playing soccer and pickleball and volleyball into old age than gain extra body fat and become massively strong and muscular. So that was my trade-off, and it's not to say that I can't continue to move toward adding size and strength and stay fit, but I'd rather be able to stay fit through the process. So maybe in another 10, 20 years, I'll have more mass and strength on me, but it's one moment at a time. Just like for Susie, perhaps as she goes along, she will find ways to balance her physique desires with the foodie desires, but maybe not. And right now she knows that she's a foodie and that's the priority. So that is a beautiful thing, and I desire that for all of us to be sovereign in the space of I can make the list of my priorities that make me happy, that when I'm on my deathbed at whatever time that is, and I look back on my life and I think I did the things that I really, really enjoyed. I had a good life and I prioritized the things that brought me joy, and I'm really happy I made those choices. So we it's so important to own our sovereignty right now. Not ever think, well, I can't do that because of this. Like, I can't be a foodie because I need to have a certain physique. I'm, gonna just not worry about health at all because I'm a foodie. So Susie is demonstrating an amazing balance between those two because she's so committed to her fitness and her dance and her health, and yet she knows that she is committed to the joy of food. So Susie, thank you for sharing that. Hopefully that is something that all of you can relate to, and hopefully you are applying that in helpful ways to your own life right now. So also, hopefully this conversation was helpful and encouraging, and sending all of you just courage and strength and love and joy and aliveness and lots of blessings. So enjoy the rest of your week. Love you guys, and we'll talk soon.